All right. So, welcome everyone. My name is John Potter, and I am an Oregon RTII implementation coach. And on behalf of the whole Oregon RTII team, I would like to welcome you all to day 3 of our 2021 virtual annual conference series. Today is going to be, the topic will be effective instruction based in the science of reading. And we are very excited to be with you here today. We've got an awesome lineup of speakers lined up for today. We're excited to learn and listen and just get a whole lot out of today. So I'll just get you kicked off for the next 25 minutes or so, and then we'll get the keynote started. So would like to take this opportunity first just to acknowledge the land and our Indigenous populations. So I'm just going to read this for us all. We would like to take time to recognize that no matter where each of us is located in this moment, we are on the traditional homelands and unceded territories of Indigenous peoples and sovereign nations across the globe. We at Oregon Response to Instruction and Intervention acknowledge the many tribes and bands who call Oregon their ancestral territory and honor the ongoing relationship between the land, plants, animals, and people indigenous to this place we now call Tigard, where our main office is located. We recognize the continued sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes who have ties to this place and thank them for continuing to teach us how we might all be here together. We would like to then invite everyone to recognize the traditional lands of the sovereign nations in your region. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. My colleague has posted that link in the chat. You can click on that and that will take you to a map where you can actually take a look at the indigenous peoples that have the lands that you are currently on. Or you can text your zip code if you live in the United States. I know we have a number of international folks, so I don't know if this will work for you all, but for the people that live in the United States, you can go ahead and text your number and it will tell you who the indigenous peoples are who have inhabited your land. So give a second to do that. And it also works in Canada as well. All right. So I also want to take this opportunity just to say a big thank you to all our presenters. One of the bright spots in the past year has been the ability to access remotely as we get better at Zoom. We can get a lot of professional development and connect with folks from all over the country, all over the world that maybe we wouldn't have been able to previously. So we are extremely grateful for all our speakers today. I know the only problem that I'm feeling today is not being able to clone myself 3 times so I could attend each and every session. So I would say remember that all the presentations will be recorded. So do your best to choose which one you want to go to, but know that you can always go back and see those later. So we've got a question in the chat there to put the number for the phone number from the last. There we go. Thank you, Beth. All right. So for those of you that have attended the first couple days of our conference, I mentioned this was the 3rd of a 3-day session. You have all seen some of the great sessions that we've had, but really we split this up into 3 half days for a couple of reasons. One, just because it's difficult, in the online world to sit for a full day on a training, and we recognize that. But 2, because we want to spread out the learning as well, so we can kind of tie all these pieces together. So day 1 was around building multi-tiered systems on a foundation of equity. We had a fantastic keynote with Dr. Rich Milner from Vanderbilt University. Day 2 around ensuring inclusive practices for our students with disabilities. Dr. Chris Lemons from Stanford gave that keynote. And today we're here to talk about the effective instruction based in the science of reading. And so we did this again, just to kind of spread things out, but also to recognize that these all go together. So these are our 3 conference days, but we do actually have a bonus day next week. If you haven't already registered for, you can still sign up for our EndNote with the one and only Dr. Anita Archer. So next Thursday, she will be talking about equity, making it happen through inclusive practices, MTSS, and science-based reading instruction. And those of you that have had the opportunity to see her speak before won't want to miss that opportunity because you know how great she is. But also those of you who haven't seen her, I'll tell you, you won't want to miss this opportunity because she just has a fantastic way of connecting and sharing such really great information. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already, get signed up for that. And my colleague will put the link to that in the chat as well. But really, all of this work is about equity and effective, instructional supports and outcomes for our students. So we like to think that each of these 3 days, even though they are separate themes, they're all necessary and insufficient on their own. We can't talk about equity without talking about instruction. We can't talk about instruction without looking at, our mindsets and our biases and the equitable impact of that instruction. And so if you haven't looked at those first 2 days, you didn't have a chance to attend those, we do have all those sessions recorded. And one of my colleagues will put the link to that website where you can access all of those wonderful sessions. I know a number of our speakers could have fit on any number of these days because the content really spans across these 3 content areas. So I would encourage you to go back and look at those sessions as well as get registered for the next session next week. So wanted to share then, as we talk about today, we're talking about the science of reading. And I think that's a term that has been used pretty widely these days. It's a term that has almost become a buzzword. And so we want to kind of define, what we're talking about today when we say science of reading, what does that mean? And so in doing this, we kind of thought about how we can define it, how we can look for something that can, put it in context and really make it fit and clear and comprehensible. And so we really like this science of reading, a defining movement that was started by the Reading League. And so if you're not familiar with the Reading League as an organization, I would highly recommend checking them out. We'll share actually the links to that and other resources at the end of this. But they have started just a way to help define what we mean when we say science of reading. And so I think they've done a really nice job of that. And so rather than recreate the wheel, we've decided to share some of that with you all today. So what I want to do is we're going to do a little activity first. And so as part of the science of reading, they're releasing, bits and chunks of it as they go along. And one of the first sections that they've released is this preamble to their defining movement around the science of reading. And it really puts in context, what we all mean by the science of reading and the importance of utilizing the science of reading. And so what I want to do is play this video for you all. It's about a 2-minute video. And so this is Tracy Whedon from Nyehouse Education reading their preamble. And I think the words are very powerful. And so, which is why I wanted you all to hear them rather than just read them. And so as you listen to this, I want you to think about this. Think about what words or phrases resonate with you. And as you listen, I don't want you to write anything down. I don't want you to type anything. I just want you to listen and really listen to the words because I think they're important. And as you think about those, just a kind of a word of caution, just in this technology age, because, bandwidth issues, the audio may not match the video on this, so her lips may not match the words. And if that's distracting for you, I would say just close your eyes and just listen to the words. You will have an opportunity after this to see the preamble, so we'll take a look at the actual words. But again, right now, I just want you to listen and listen to the words that she's saying. So I'm going to switch over to my computer audio, and hopefully this works. If it doesn't, one of my colleagues just send a message to me in the chat or give me a thumbs down on the video, and we'll get the audio working. But let me switch over my audio and get this playing.
Humankind's most precious treasure is our children, and our future depends on them. We recognize literacy as a fundamental human right that empowers individuals and a society. We also know that grim life outcomes are connected to illiteracy. We are resolved to prevent the collateral damage that is incurred by our students, especially the most vulnerable among them, when adults have limited access to the convergent scientific evidence. Research has yielded proven assessment and instructional practices with which every teacher and leader should be equipped. We believe that providing educators with this knowledge is a moral imperative. We are committed to evidence-aligned reading instruction being scaled with a sense of urgency in a comprehensive and systematic way by multiple stakeholders. We know that our children can be taught to read properly the first time. In a knowledge economy, the currency of the 21st century will be built on the foundation of skilled reading. Students who can read well have a place at the table of opportunity, whether their aspirations lead them to preparation for college or the workforce. We believe in a future where a collective focus on applying the science of reading through teacher and leader preparation, classroom application, and community engagement will elevate and transform every community, every nation through the power of literacy. Join us.
All right. I know some people said in the chat it was a little bit hard to hear that, so maybe the volume was a little low, but again, you will get a chance to see the words as well, so you can read through that. Whoops, I'm gonna move on here. So this is the preamble. So I wanna give you a second then, if you could hear it, just review the words. If you couldn't hear it, maybe this is the first time you're seeing this. But I want you to think about what are the words and phrases that resonate with you in here. So I'm gonna give you just about 30 seconds just to read through, and maybe you write those down, but maybe you keep those just in your brain. But I'm gonna ask you to do something with those words that resonate with you. So just take a quick moment, scan this, and what resonates with you. All right. So as you think about those words that resonate with you, here's what I want you to do. So we are going to do a word cloud, a Mentimeter. And so my colleague Beth has put that link in the chat, so you can use that link. You can also, if you have your phone handy, you can use this QR code. If you know how to use QR codes, just use your camera to scan that, and it will take you right to the page. But I want you to enter into that Mentimeter. What are those words or phrases that resonate with you? And so as we do this, this is going to populate. And as we start to get some of those on there, I'm going to shift over and share with you the Mentimeter so we can kind of make this together and see what are the big things that really resonated with us as we did this. And I've got my second computer screen over here. I'm seeing this is being populated. So I am going to switch over real quick so we can see this. So seeing things like moral imperative, yes, yes. Urgency, empowers, fundamental human right. This is fantastic. I love how quickly this is changing. Yeah, it's just this is great. I think, yeah, that urgency is at the center of everything. Urgency and moral imperative, human right, opportunity, systematic, transform. Yeah, still changing there. Awesome. Well, let people, if you want to, feel free to continue to put things in the Mentimeter. But yeah, as my colleague said, you were in the right place today. if this is, how you feel about the science of reading. Again, we do feel it is an urgent need. It is a moral imperative to provide every student with this, with literacy as a fundamental human and civil right. So awesome. I'm going to switch back to the presentation. Thank you for doing that with us. We appreciate that, and we will try and share that out with folks. Maybe we'll share out the Mentimeter, as we follow up and give you the link to all the presentations. Maybe we'll share this with you all. So I think that's very powerful. Thank you. So just kind of thinking through the definition, what we mean by the science of reading. This is the definition from a defining movement. And I think, the important thing about the science of reading is that it really is about the body of research, scientifically based research around reading and issues related to reading and writing and language. And that body of research comes from a number of different places. It's not just education. We're talking cognitive science, school psychology, linguistics, developmental psychology. It is a broad body of research that has been around for decades. We're talking about going back to the National Reading Panel report 20 years ago, and even before that. So it is this broad body of research. But I think it's also important in defining the science of reading that we also look at what it is not, because I think this term has been co-opted and has been used for a lot of things that aren't necessarily true to what we intended it to be. And so we think that, these things you may have heard. The science of reading is a philosophy. It's a way of approaching, reading instruction. It's really not. It's not a new trend, a new idea or pendulum swing. This isn't about the reading wars. This isn't just swinging back and forth here. This is a body of research that has existed for quite a while. It's not a one size fits all approach. It's not a program of instruction. Science of reading has become a buzzword where you start to see programs marketing, we're a science of reading program, and we need to be better consumers to really think about what that means. The science of reading is not a program that we implement. We can't say, oh, well, our school does the science of reading. We can say we implement practices that are, based on the science of reading, but the science of reading is not something that we do. And then one of the big, misnomers we see about it is that it's really a single specific component, or really phonics. We say, well, science of reading is just a new way of talking about phonics. And I think as you learn more about the science of reading, and as you listen to our presenters that we hear today, it's not just about phonics. Phonics is a very important piece of becoming an effective reader, but we want to move beyond decoding and word reading and phonics and look at a broad range of reading activities. How kids develop oral language, how kids comprehend what they're reading, background knowledge, phonemic awareness. There's a whole lot that goes into it beyond phonics. So we have the link in there, and you have access to this presentation. You can read more about the defining movement. But I also want to help you kind of understand or realize the science of reading is really vast. It is a broad body of research, and we're not going to hit all that today. And so if we think about it in this way, if this represents our solar system, represents what we know about the science of reading currently, this is going to be what you're going to hear about today. You're going to hear about a very small piece of that, a broad range and a good sampling across the science of reading, but you're not going to hear everything about it. So if this is your first time hearing about the science of reading, you're going to need to go deeper. If this is, if you're familiar with the science of reading, hopefully this confirms a lot of what you know, but I hope it also challenges some of what you know. Because the other piece about the science of reading is that if this is what we know about the science of reading, there's a whole universe out there about what we have yet to know. And the science of reading is changing. It's not something where we can say, oh, I took a science of reading course, or I went to a training and I'm good. I'm trained up and I know the science of reading and I can go forth and implement it, because things are changing. What we knew of, just 5 years ago about how kids learn to read is different a little bit about what we know now. Not vastly different, but there are changes, and there will be new things that science discovers about how our students learn to read and how we can teach them effectively. And so we need to be open-minded, and to some degree we need to have a level of humility to know that maybe some of the practices that we used to implement we thought were based in science, but we have new information, and so be willing to change our practices based on what we know, what we understand, and what the changing field looks like. So again, today is just a sampling of the science of reading. We did want to share with you some resources where you can continue this journey. So I would say first, obviously start with all our wonderful presenters today. They all have, websites, modules, resources, blogs. They're a fantastic resource for learning more about the science of reading. But I would say if you want to go deeper and learn more about it, we've provided here just a few resources that are, just touching the surface about how you can get more information. All of these organizations do a really fantastic job of providing a range of free resources, paid for resources, but ways to learn more about the science of reading. And it all depends on how much time you have and how much you can invest. If you've just got a few minutes, maybe it's an article that you read off of Reading Rockets. If you want to dedicate more time to that, Reading League, Core, and the AIM Institute have really good science of reading courses and modules that you can take that span multiple weeks. Multiple months. Maybe if you listen to podcasts, I'd recommend the Amplify Science of Reading podcast. They have done just a fantastic job of having a lot of different guests talk about the different facets of the science of reading. We're lucky enough to have a few of the guests that they've had on that podcast with us today to talk through some of those issues. But these are just a few of the resources. There are many more to look at that you can move on to if you would like to learn more about the science of reading. And we hope today sparks your interest to do that.